Hello and welcome in. Mark here, aka the Markster. This is video number 28 in the FreeCAD series. Today I want to cover stuff in the part workbench that we haven't covered yet. So one thing we haven't covered yet is box selection. So let's start there and we'll work our way down. So let me add just a few sort of random objects here. Let's move them away from each other a little bit. Alright, so let's look at box selection first. With the box selection tool, you can draw a box to select your objects. It works similarly to the box selection that you have in the sketcher, except in the sketcher you just draw your rectangle. You don't have to invoke a tool. In the 3D view here, that doesn't work. We need to invoke that tool first. You can use a keyboard shortcut, Shift key plus B at the same time. And you can go from upper left corner to lower right, or lower right to upper left. And it works a little bit differently depending on which method you use. So if we go from the upper left to the lower right, we'll select objects. Only that are mostly selected. If you just catch a little bit of it, you see you don't get it. But if you go from the lower right to the upper, if you get just a piece of it, that's going to be good enough. So that's box selection. Can be useful when you have a bunch of objects. Not so much with just 2 or 3. So let's move on down now. That's box selection. Create shape from mesh. We haven't covered that yet. We haven't really talked about meshes yet. A lot of people go on Thingiverse, download models to print out from other users, and those are usually in the form of a mesh STL object. And in order to work with that object in FreeCAD, you would need to convert it to a shape, and this can be done back and forth. So let's convert this cube. We can go to the mesh design workbench, select the cube, create mesh from shape, and go back to part and hide the cube. So now we have a mesh object here, just like if you had imported it as an STL. You get the same type of object. And we can convert that object, create a shape from that mesh object to work with it in FreeCAD. Now let me hide the mesh, and we see our converted object consists of triangles. That's what a mesh is. Many CAD applications are mesh modelers, and that's what they use. They use these triangles to represent all their faces. Let's do the torus the same way. I mean the cone. Let's do the cone. Mesh menu, create mesh from shape. Alright, and now I'll hide this cone. So this is the mesh version of the cone. Notice it's it's polygon. The circle is polygon. It's not a real circle. Now let's go back to part. And let's use this create shape from mesh tool. And let's hide the mesh now. So you see how the mesh represents that circle is not a true circle. FreeCAD is a boundary representation, or BREP modeler, as opposed to a mesh modeler. So we actually have true circles in FreeCAD. There are folks who go through the trouble of learning one of these mesh modelers with the intention of sending their model off to a manufacturer, only to learn that they cannot accept those types of files. They want another format that their CAD does not support, and they can't use these mesh-based objects to do the manufacturing. They need boundary representation. They need true circles, not a polygon, to make your object for you. So we got a little sidetrack there, but that's the create shape from mesh object. Create points object from mesh. This is some code I actually added myself to FreeCAD. It creates a points object, so let's do that one from a mesh. Let me hide this and select the meshed object. So this would be like you had imported it as an STL. We'll go to the part menu and create points object from mesh. Now let's hide the mesh and look at the points object. So this is all the vertices in this cone. So what's the use of this? Well, they can be selected, whereas the mesh object, you cannot select these points or these faces or anything. You just select the whole object and nothing, and there's just no way to work with it. So if we wanted to reverse engineer this cone, we can use these points to help us do that. So let's just do that real quickly. Go to the sketcher, and we can select 3 points on that plane and create a sketch, and it will give us that option to map to that plane. And now we can create links to external geometry here. So this would be a way to reverse engineer a model that you got off of Thingiverse. Go back in here. And now, let me hide these things we're not interested in at the moment. The circle tool has an option of using 3 rim points. So we can reference these 3 points to make a circle. So now we have a circle from that edge. And we can do the same with this on this end. This is a very simple model. Obviously, most of them are going to be much more complicated. And let's try to view this from the side here. Select 3 of these points. Create a sketch map to that plane. It can be confusing to know which points to select. But if we angle it so, in this particular case, it's not too difficult. Okay, so they're all on the same plane. And now we can make another circle like we did before. Come on. Okay. So that's fully constrained. Let's make sure the other one is too. Yeah. So we've got our two circles, and we can go to here and use the loft tool. And hopefully end up with a decent remodeling. It looks like I did. I should have used these points here instead of those. So I used some of the wrong points. So I didn't get the right circle here on this one. I'm not going to go back and redo it, but this illustrates that technique for reverse engineering a mesh object. We could do videos on that topic alone. So that's the mesh points object and its purpose. Create a points object from mesh. Convert to solid. We can do the opposite of creating the mesh object, which is what we've already done. We've already demonstrated that one. Yeah, right here. Alright, so in the loft you can see how it differs. I messed up. I didn't do that one the right way. Didn't use the correct points. Some of those points are not around the edge. That'd be easily fixed, but I don't want to spend too much time on that right now. Let's move on down. So we got convert to solid, reverse shapes. Okay. Let's look at this this object that we created from the mesh. Often mesh objects will have reverse normals. It's a problem that you can run into with them. Every face has a front and a back. Let's create a plane. So here's a plane. It's a face. It's got a front and a back. It's got a normal. The normal direction would be the direction is perpendicular to that plane. Let me add the axis cross here. So the normal direction to this plane is this blue arrow. That's the normal direction. If we go to the View tab, turn lighting to one side instead of two sides, we can see that there's a black side and a shiny side. The black side is the inside of that face, and that would be the inside of these faces. If we looked at them from the inside out, it would be black. So if we have an object that we created from a mesh that had flipped normals, it's called, some of these faces would be black because they're inside out, and that can create a lot of problems when you're trying to do your modeling. So now let's use that reverse tool to show you the difference. We'll click the plane, import reverse shapes. Now we have a new plane object. It's a copy. Let's see if this is parametric. Yes. So the plane reversed is parametric to the original. Let me hide the plane object, and we also need to set this to one-sided because it comes in by default as two-sided. Alright, so now we see that the reverse side is on top and the front side is on bottom. That's for the part that's for this copy. And if we change to the original, we see that's the opposite. The silver part on top. And here the black part's on top. So we've reversed that shape. Now if we select this mesh object and run that same tool on it, and then also let's hide it, select this one and make it one-sided, we see that it's black. So we have all the faces have been inverted. If we take this to mesh design and create a mesh from the shape, we see that our mesh is black because it has flipped normals. And there's a tool in here, analyze, evaluate, and repair mesh, that can diagnose problems with your mesh object. This button here performs all these tests at once. So we have no flipped normals, but they're all flipped, so none of them are showing up as flipped. So this is good except for all these flip faces. So there's another tool in here, flip normals, and now they're all flipped back the correct direction. Often you have a problem that I'm going to just delete it. Some of them are flipped and some of them are not. So let's take our plane. I'm just going to delete that reversed one, and let's transform it and get it over here. Alright. And now select the plane and this object, which was a mesh but no longer, and we're going to choose split. Let's try Boolean fragments and see what that does. It will explode these fragments. Okay, that's not what I want. Let me undo that. Let's try a different splitting tool. Slice apart. Let's try that one. Not really what I want either. Bear with me here. Slice the compound. Explode compound. Okay. Let's go reverse. Now let's try Boolean fragments on that. Okay. Now we have two separate objects here. This is what I wanted. Just gonna put that back where it was. Let's see if we can explode this one further. Let's give me all the faces. Let's move it up to 0. Try something here. See if it's going to work. Reverse. We're going to reverse that, and we're going to take these two and let's try fusing. Didn't work. I'm trying to create intentionally an object with flip normals. I'm having trouble doing it. Delete that. Okay, maybe undo this. All right. Okay, this should work. Finally, we're going to get somewhere. I'm going to flip. Try to flip these three. See if that works. So that's 52, 77, and 127. I'm going to delete those. Oh, that was a mistake. Undo that. That's a parametric copy. 52. 77. Should have just done 127. All right. Now I'm going to remove these and try to fuse these together. We'll see what happens. 77 and 52. All right. Let's try to view this one-sided. Okay, so we have some flip normals intentionally created after multiple failures. Go to mesh design now, and we'll create a mesh from this. And hide the original. So this often is what you get when you import an STL file. You end up with these flip normals. Now let me see if we can run our analyze tool. Yeah, so we end up with flip normals. And there's a repair tool which makes changes to your mesh. It does not create a new, you also have poles on surface. It does not create a new object, so it modifies the original, which is not necessarily good, but it did fix those flip normals. Let's analyze again. It's not finding this one though. So that tool, I've had very, very, very limited success with that repair tool. Did I add enough varies into there? But it does at least a pretty good job diagnosing problems. So if you create a model, you can export directly to your mesh format, the file menu, or you can create a mesh here in the mesh design workbench. Check it for errors, and then if it's all good, you can export it from here, and you'll have a better probability of success being able to print that done like that. So we can flip the normals of this object, but the problem with that is we still have one that's flipped the wrong way. We just flipped all the other ones the right way. We're going far afield from where we started. But sometimes you have to get sidetracked. Let's go back to part. So that's the reverse shape. I'm gonna save these copies for another video. Since this one ran, it's already at 30 minutes almost. So we'll talk about these in another video. And I think we've covered all the rest of this. We'll talk about this attachment tool too. So those will be another video. Creating the copies, different types, the differences between them, and the attachment. We're going to have to get sidetracked talking about these to talking about this part container. It's just going to be too long because we got sidetracked with this with these mesh tools and the reverse shapes tool. Okay, so that's going to be it for today. Hopefully you learned a few things, and thank you for watching, and have a great day.